In 2025, JFK ranked first in America for international passenger volume, 35 million people. Newark ran second. Boston broke records. Atlanta, Miami, Charlotte all grew. And 26 miles west of Washington, D.C., an airport you've probably never thought about, quietly became the only American airport that flies to more African countries than JFK. Washington Dulles. 29 million passengers in 2025, an all-time record. 10.5 million international. 250 United flights a day. The Saarinen terminal that's been there since 1962, while 3 brand new gates open this fall. This is not the story of how Dulles will beat JFK. JFK is still 3 times bigger. This is the story of how Dulles became something JFK isn't, and why, by 2030, no other airport on the East Coast will be able to do what Dulles already does. 3 numbers tell the story. 29 million, that's Dulles in 2025, an all-time record, up 6.4% from the year before. 5.3%, that's how much Reagan National dropped in the same year after the January 2025 mid-air collision and the 43-day government shutdown. 8 versus 6, that's how many African countries you can fly non-stop to from Dulles compared to from JFK. For the first time since John F. Kennedy stood on the Dulles tarmac in 1962, the airport that was supposed to be DC's spillover terminal has become America's specialized international gateway. The reason comes down to 4 decisions, 3 of them made by United Airlines. Dulles opened on November 17, 1962. President Kennedy dedicated it. Saarinen, the architect of the TWA Flight Center at JFK, called the curved suspended roof terminal the best thing I have done. Then, for 30 years, the airport sat half empty. In 1962, jet aircraft were small. The whole point of Dulles was to handle the international flights that couldn't fit at the old Washington National. But for 3 decades, the airport that was supposed to serve a global capital served less than half its capacity. You'd land at Dulles in 1985 and get loaded onto a mobile lounge, a 54-foot rolling pod on tires that drove you to your gate because nobody had built a proper concourse yet. Then, in 1986, United Airlines did something nobody expected. They moved their East Coast hub from Washington National out to Dulles. 58 daily departures, 24 destinations, a bet on an airport that didn't even have permanent gates for half its flights. In 2025, that bet runs at 250 flights a day. United now carries 2/3 of every passenger at Dulles, and the airline calls the current period, the period we're in right now, the decade of Dulles. Here's the part of the Dulles story nobody talks about. If you want to fly non-stop from the United States to sub-Saharan Africa, Dulles is the airport. Not JFK, not Atlanta. Dulles. From IAD, you can fly direct to Accra, Lagos, Cape Town, Dakar, Cairo, Casablanca, Addis Ababa, and Lomé. 8 African destinations. JFK has 6. United runs 4 of those non-stops itself: Accra, Cape Town, Lagos, Dakar. The rest are flown by Ethiopian Airlines, Egyptair, and Royal Amarak. None of those carriers serve any other U.S. airport with the same depth. In July 2025, Patrick Quayle, United's head of network planning, said this about Dakar: "We are excited to launch United's first ever service from Senegal, making it the perfect gateway to Africa." There's a wrinkle here. The Dakar route is being suspended in March 2026. It averaged a 65% load factor. Not enough. Don't pretend that didn't happen. It did. But the structural point survives. Dulles will still lead JFK 7-6 in African non-stops. South African Airways has announced plans to relaunch Johannesburg-Accra Dulles by late 2026, and no other U.S. airport, none, has both the diplomatic passenger base and the United wide-body fleet to make these routes work. Why does Washington, D.C. support African flights nobody else can? Because Washington is home to 177 foreign embassies, the largest concentration on Earth. The Cape Town flight isn't full of tourists. It's full of State Department officials, World Bank consultants, defense contractors, USAID staff, African Union delegates, and Lockheed Martin engineers. The passenger base is so unique that routes which would empty out at any other airport stay viable here. That is the entire thesis. But the diplomatic base only works if people can actually get to the airport, and until November 2022, getting to Dulles from downtown DC was, to be blunt, a joke. Then, the metro arrived. November 15, 2022, the Silver Line Phase 2 extension opens. $2.8 billion, 6 new stations. The final one drops you directly underneath the Dulles main terminal. 53 minutes from Metro Center to the airport, $6.75 at peak, no transfers, no AirTrain, no NJ Transit, one train downtown to the International Concourse. Compare that to JFK. To get from Manhattan to JFK, you take the subway, transfer to the AirTrain, pay an extra $8.50, and that's only if your terminal is at the AirTrain stop you picked. EWR is worse. AirTrain to NJ Transit, transfer, hope your train isn't delayed. Logan has a bus that runs through a tunnel. LaGuardia has no rail at all. Dulles is the only major East Coast international airport with a one-seat rapid rail ride directly into a downtown federal city, not just to the suburbs of one, directly to Metro Center, 3 blocks from the White House. This is what nobody was talking about during the Silver Line construction. JFK has been promising AirTrain extensions to Manhattan since 1990. Newark has been promising EWR rail for 20 years. Dulles just quietly did it, and it changed the airport's competitive position overnight. Walk into Concourse C at Dulles today, and you're walking into a building that was supposed to be temporary. It went up in the 1980s. United operates 46 gates out of 2 temporary buildings that have been about to be replaced for 30 years. That ends this fall. In fall 2026, Concourse E opens. 14 new gates, 435,000 square feet, LEED Silver certified, designed by PGAL and Turner Construction. Approximately $900 million for Phase 1. The federal government just kicked in another $41 million in May 2026. Inside, a 39,000 square foot United Club, direct aero-trained connection, the first proper international concourse Dulles has built since the 1990s. But Concourse E is just Phase 1. The full Dulles Master Plan, adopted by the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority Board in July 2025, calls for approximately $7 billion in construction over 20 years. Tier 2 Phase 2 starts in 2028. Tier 3, full replacement of the temporary buildings, runs from 2036 to 2045. The target? 38 million passengers and 154 gates by 2040. This is the part where you have to stop and think about it. In November 2025, at a black tie gala in Loudoun County, United's Chief Commercial Officer Andrew Nocella stood at a podium and said, "We treat all of our 7 hubs like all my kids equally. The honest truth is, I love Dulles a little more." The CCO of America's 3rd largest airline just said his favorite hub is the airport that 30 years ago couldn't fill its gates. So let's be honest about what taking over the East Coast actually means. JFK is not in danger. JFK handled 35 million international passengers in 2024. Dulles handled 10.5 million. JFK is 3 times larger. JFK has 70 international airlines. Dulles has 46. Dulles is not going to replace JFK. But Dulles has become something JFK can't be. It has become the East Coast's specialized international gateway. Not the biggest, the most specialized. For Africa, Dulles leads JFK. For diplomatic travel, no other airport competes. For sub-Saharan emerging markets, Dakar, Lomé, Cape Town, Accra, soon Johannesburg, Dulles is the only viable launch point. Reagan National can never compete. Federal law caps Reagan National at 1,250 miles. You cannot fly non-stop from Reagan to anywhere west of Denver, anywhere in Europe, or anywhere in Africa. That is a statute passed by Congress in 1986, permanent. Every long-haul flight from Washington must use Dulles by law. And while New York's 3 airports fight over a saturated New York market, JFK with $19 billion in renovations, Newark with FAA flight caps, LaGuardia with the second worst cancellation rate in America, Dulles is sitting on uncontested specialization, a federal economy that generates premium yield, and the only one-seat rail link in the federal city. Here is the picture you're looking at. In 1962, John F. Kennedy stood on a tarmac in Virginia and dedicated an airport that was too big for its city. For 30 years, it was a punchline. Mobile lounges, empty concourses, a great architect's masterpiece half used. Then United bet on it. Then the federal economy grew around it. Then the Silver Line connected it. Then the African network arrived. Then the $7 billion master plan was approved. And now, an airline executive stands at a black tie gala and says, out loud, on the record, that out of all of United's hubs in America, Dulles is the one he loves a little more. Dulles isn't taking over the East Coast by becoming bigger than JFK, it's taking over by becoming the airport JFK can't be. The diplomatic gateway, the African hub, the federal city's one-seat ride to the world. The only U.S. airport on the East Coast with a master plan that runs to 2045 and a partner airline that calls the current decade, the decade we're standing in right now, the decade of Dulles. By 2030, when you fly to Lagos or Accra or Cape Town from the United States, you will fly through Dulles. By 2040, the airport will handle 38 million passengers a year. By 2045, the last temporary building from 1985 will finally come down. The airport nobody wanted in 1962 is the airport every airline wants in 2026. It just took 64 years for everybody else to notice.